Hello and welcome to Making Through the Seasons. My name is Lauren, and today I'm going to share some of the things that I knit mostly in the month of December and a little bit into January. So the first thing I'm going to share is what I'm wearing. I knit this out of some yarn that I had in stash. It's a chunky weight yarn. It's called Uruguay Chunky, and it's a merino alpaca silk blend. I knit this on size 11 needles, and I sort of designed this myself. I went onto Ravelry and I looked at a whole bunch of slipover or vest patterns, and then I picked out what features I thought would be the best for the yarn that I had and the style I was looking for. So I put a split hem on the side, and I did a rolled neck at the top of it. It's just a very simple, basic vest design. I found that a lot of the patterns that I liked the look of best called for about 6 to 8 inches of positive ease, and so that is what I went for. And for the most part, it was a very quick and easy knit. There was just a little bit of excitement in Yarn Chicken as I knit this, because it was making the pattern up as I went, and I wasn't entirely sure I was going to have enough yarn, but it worked out fine. I actually had one extra ball of the yarn for this. So I had this yarn, I think I purchased it maybe about 11 or 12 years ago, thinking this was when I was a very new knitter, and I thought that I would knit myself a sweater out of it, only I had never knit a sweater and I didn't know how much I needed. So I only had maybe 700 or 800 yards of yarn, and as I got better with knitting, I realized that that wasn't going to be enough to knit a sweater. So it just kind of sat there for a whole lot of time until I decided to make this. So the next thing that I knit was actually Christmas presents for my children. I found these really adorable patterns, or this really adorable pattern in which you can make several different little animals. They're called Pocket Buddies, and the pattern is by French Lavender Designs. And I knit these all out of scraps of leftover worsted weight yarn. The pattern itself calls for you to knit it flat and then seam it up, which on the very first one that I knit, I actually did that. I knit it flat and then I seamed it up and I put it all together. And after doing that, I realized you don't need to do that. You could totally knit them in the round and save yourself the effort of that seam. And so from then on out, I knit these in the round without the effort of having to seam them up at the end. Let's see, I did the fox and the cat. The cat comes with optional whiskers. I haven't put the whiskers on yet, but I think I'm going to go back and add them because I do think that it'll add a cute little touch to them. I did add little pink bits in the ears, which I thought was super cute. I always like to make them something small that they can open up on Christmas Eve before all of the excitement and the big reveal of toys and such on Christmas Day. So these were this year's pattern, and I thoroughly loved it. They are super fast, so I think that really you could get one of these in a day, sort of, just a few hours of knitting, and you could have a whole little stuffed animal. So I definitely think I'll be making more of these as presents because they were quick and easy, and they are just adorable. So the next thing that I'm going to show is another vest that I decided to make for myself. And this sort of came out of the idea of this vest. I had some hand spun yarn that I had spun up from wool that I had purchased at Rhinebeck, not this year, but last year. And I had spun it over the winter, and I ended up with a slightly heavier weight yarn than I was anticipating. And I think that part of that is that I did a 3-ply yarn. And so the extra having 3 plies versus 2 plies made a heavier weight yarn than I was really anticipating. And so I did not have enough yarn to do a full sweater. And so I decided what I would do instead is a vest. And this one is going to be a button-down vest where it has buttons in it, and then I'm not entirely sure about the color. I think it's going to be V, and then depending on how much yarn I have left over, I may add a slight short row shaping to give it a little bit of a shawl collar, but I might not because I'm running out of yarn very quickly on this, and I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to have enough to do anything other than just the basic finishing of the armholes and the neckband. So we'll have to see. I've been doing the button band as I go along in garter stitch, so that this way here I didn't have to worry about having enough yarn to go back after the vest was completed and do the button band afterwards. So this has so this has an integrated button band. I decided to add some texture to this because it's a hand spun yarn. It's a little thick and thin in spots. It's not the most consistent thing that I've spun. And so I added a texture to it by doing sort of like a broken rib. I think it technically is a broken rib, where one row is knit and then you knit the whole thing, and then the next row is knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. And initially I thought that I was going to have it with the side showing the knits. So the side where you would see the unbroken knit stitch going up and down the vest. But as I was working on it, I like the inside better. I like the way the texture looks on the inside, where you see the purls are the consistent and the knits are broken up by a purl every other row. And I really like that. I think that it is a nice effect, especially with the less consistent yarn. It gives it a nice effect to it. So you don't, it almost hides some of the sins of the poor spinning. And so I really like that. So we'll see. I feel like I'm a little bit slower on this one as I get closer to the end, because I definitely have this huge fear of running out of the yarn before I get to the end. So I think that continuing to work on it feels like maybe I'm risking all of this extra effort on something that isn't going to be isn't meant to be, because I don't have enough yarn. So we'll have to see. I will, if I get brave enough to keep going. I have one full skein of the yarn left, and I have the whole from the dividing of the arms up through to the back. So we'll see if I can get all the way there, or whether I run out of yarn. You'll have to stay tuned to see if I make it all the way. And then the next thing I'm going to show, let me grab it. The next thing is the vest. This is all this, I should call this the vest episode, because this is like all vests all the time. This vest I have been working on for a little while now. I think I started it maybe in late November. It's a vest for my daughter, and it is a vest I designed it's heavily cabled. And I am knitting this out of some worsted weight yarn that I dyed using marigolds from the garden this fall. I dyed it in maybe October into November, and it's this beautiful yellow ochre. I have finished the back, and I have started to divide and work on the front sections of this. This is going to be a V-neck, so it's actually, the amount of work is a lot less now as I make my way up through the smaller sections. So hopefully this will be done in the fairly near future. The next thing I thought I would share is some spindle spinning. I've been working this year to learn how to spin on a spindle. I've been spinning on a wheel for many years, but I thought that this year I'd like to learn to spin on spindles as well. And so I picked up a 1 ounce little bump of fiber at my Spinners Guild meeting, and I spun it up solely using the spindle. I picked up this spindle at the Spinners Guild too, as sort of in a D-stash. One of the members was selling it in a D-stash, and so I picked this up at a very reasonable price, and I picked up the fiber as well, and I spun the entire 1 ounce bump on this spindle. And I learned a lot during the course of this as well. I learned about like One of the things that I learned is that as it gets heavier, it stops getting such good traction and it'll start to drop away from you. And that was something that I never really thought about. And so once I realized that I was having more and more trouble, I thought, oh, I think this is the time to get some of that fiber off. And so what I did is using a shoebox, I poked 2 holes in a shoebox and I put the spindle in the shoebox, and then I wound onto storage bobbins or spare bobbins that I have. I put the fiber on there and then I spun up the rest of the fiber. And then when I was all done spinning all of it, I divided it onto 3 of these bobbins and I plied it, a 3-ply. I plied it using my spinning wheel. I wasn't ready to be adventurous enough to ply on the spindle, and so I decided to use the wheel to ply this. And I'm very happy with the results. I think I'm going to continue making little bits of spindle spun fiber and then maybe create some sort of larger project using all of the little bits and bobs that I spin on a spindle. Part of me was thinking that this is like great for granny squares or some other type of project where you could compile together lots of different yarns that are maybe not the same thickness into something kind of interesting. So we'll have to see where this goes. And then the next thing is I got for Christmas this year a Turkish spindle. Somebody had commented on one of my videos that they thought that it was possible that a Turkish spindle would be an easier, more approachable way to learn how to spindle spin. And so I think I maybe mentioned this to my husband, and he bought me a Turkish spindle for Christmas, which I thought was really, really cute. It's, I've really been enjoying it. It's a totally different experience for me. I had purchased a book, this book after I had mentioned trouble with learning to spindle spin or some of the difficulties that I was having. And this has been really helpful, especially with the Turkish spindle and figuring out how exactly to get it to work right, how to wind it on properly. And so this has been really good. It's called Respect the Spindle. I can link it below. It's been a really good resource. Well, that is all I had to share today about some of my makes from mostly the end of 2024. I hope that I will be able to share even more makes as 2025 progresses. I can't believe we're already sort of midway through the first month. But thank you all for joining me, and I look forward to sharing all of my makes and creations again with you another time. Thanks. Bye.